is there a way to save the jam session for us?
So I believe Phoebe will have the notes from the jam session. The breakout rooms aren't recorded. We'll go back to, we're about to go back to live recording, but the breakout rooms, I believe, and Phoebe, now that you're back, will the breakout room jam boards be able to be saved?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
In our breakout room, we worked with that sticky note system. Can we save that for future reference, what we did on our little group?
Can you personally save it?
Yeah, that's the question.
I think you should be able to. If you're on your Jamboard, there are 3 little dots next to the share button in the upper right-hand corner.
Okay.
And you should be able to download as a PDF.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah.
You can also make a copy to save it. So.
Christina, did you have a question?
No, I didn't get to bring this up in my group, but one of the things that I would like to bring up is supporting the carbon fee and dividend bill that's been trying to get through Congress for a long time, years, and the studies on it have shown that it's the one thing that would reduce carbon emissions worldwide the quickest by far. But like putting a whole bunch of other possibilities together, it beats it by far. And what it is basically is taxing carbon emissions at the source, at the oil well, at the coal mine, and then a dividend goes out to every citizen in the country, to help offset the cost. But they have shown in the very few places that it's been implemented to have a very strong impact on carbon emissions. So Paul, I think might know better than I do whether Sebastopol has signed on to that, because there's a lot of cities across the country have signed on to supporting that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Sebastopol has signed on.
Yeah,
Sebastopol's endorsing it, which is good.
Yeah,
and
thanks
people
for sharing
also
that.
need to be educated about to talk to their representatives about it.
Right.
Yeah, that's the one solution that, once implemented, does not require further education.
Okay, Kenna, you have your hand up?
Oh, yes. Christina, I just, I added that to our Jamboard for you. So it's captured. And Phoebe, just if there's time, a couple of things that came up in our session. If Steve is still here to talk, to give him a minute or two to talk about CERT and the role that it's playing. I don't know if he's still here. And then if there's anyone that could talk a little bit about the BayREN incentive programs, just for this larger group to hear what's already available, that would be great.
So you're looking for someone from your group to share, Kenna?
No, I had seen Skip Gerald's here earlier, and the question of community emergency preparedness came up, so I don't see him anymore.
I do see him actually. I don't know.
Oh,
there we go. Hi, Skip.
Hey, Skip. Greetings. So regarding in Sebastopol specifically, Kenna, or just the CERT program?
Yes.
Yeah, what do our residents have access to in terms of training and resources and getting involved in the CERT program?
So we no longer have an actual CERT program itself in the city of Sebastopol. We haven't actually for a number of years. What we've been doing is promoting the Map Your Neighborhood program, which is more specifically about neighborhoods learning to work together to become more resilient, which is a little bit different emphasis from the CERT program. There is a large CERT effort happening in the North Bay, which we could connect people to as far as that goes, but there is not anything specifically for the CERT training in Sebastopol currently.
Is there one anywhere in Sonoma County?
Yes, in the North Bay, there's a strong group of people in the North Bay. North Bay, I can get the information of who the lead is. It's Jeff Peters that happens to be up in the North Bay. But there is a group there, yes.
And Skip, do you want to say just a little more about the Map Your Neighborhood program and how people can get involved in that?
Sure, thanks. Map Your Neighborhood, again, is about neighborhood awareness and connecting with each other, neighbor to neighbor. Whereas the CERT program is more about training individuals to be more prepared than potentially coming down and helping the city in case of during an emergency. Whereas the neighborhood program is really about people working together in the program or in the neighborhood. That program has been running since about 2010. We have probably 40 or 50 strong neighborhoods that are running that program, staying connected between themselves, working with us and the leader council in order to facilitate, progress and issues and solving problems in the neighborhood. The leader council has been very strong, including going all the way through the pandemic period. It is a program you can go to sebastopolready.org, and there is information about the Map Your Neighborhood program there. And I'm the contact for that. I'll put my contact information in the chat if anybody's interested to know more.
Great, thank you, Skip. Anyone else have anything they want to share that they talked about in their breakout room? Anything they didn't get to talk about in their breakout room?
So Phoebe, I think Kenna had asked for a little bit more information on the Bayren water upgrade program. And so I did just post the article that's on the city's website, as well as the actual, if you want to go and see more specifics, the water upgrades save.org site. And I believe the way the way it works is there are advisors available to come out to your home, look and basically do a survey and assess areas where you could save water. And then there are certain financing and rebate programs available for efficiency and some of those upgrades.
Are there other programs for like weatherproofing, changing out single pane windows, stuff like that? Are there any other programs like Bayren?
Sure. So I do know, I don't know about Bayren. I do know that they do have more, they do have some programs for insulation, air sealing, duct sealing, as well as some rebates for replacing furnaces with high efficiency furnaces, heat pumps, gas water heaters, and those types of things. So
this is
that's all
Bayren
available. Yeah, and that's all available at the www.bayren.org. And that's, I can post. That's actually available through the water upgrades link. They have, if you sort of look through it, there's a rebates and financing and home learning center, and there's a lot of information on that site.
Yeah, and Carrie, this is Tanya, if I could add to that. So I would definitely recommend checking out the bayren.org site. And then I know Sonoma Clean Power also offers rebates and incentives, and they really try to complement the Bayren enhancements or incentives. And so between those two, depending on what you're trying to do, you could get some good rebates and incentives. So would definitely recommend checking out both Sonoma Clean Power's Advanced Energy Center site as well as the Bayren site.
Thank you.
Yeah,
if I could ask a question about this. So I participated in Bayren, and I was really happy with it because it makes it very easy. Somebody comes to your home, they look around, they suggest to do this and this, to tell you how much it costs, etc. So it is like you could say the transaction cost of making a radical change is low, and that's what I'm looking for home electrification. I think the Bayran could be a model, that water upgrade program could be a model for Sebastopol, to have people prepare for replacing all their gas gadgets with electricity. Yeah, so you need to kind of wire your house differently a bit. And that's challenging, I think, for a lot of people that are not technically savvy. That is a transaction cost that is enormous because they have to start thinking about it. So it would be great if there was a program that the city endorses and promotes, that has somebody come to your house and say, this and these are changes you need to make in your wiring and your panel to make that happen. And then you could kind of over time replace your stovetop, et cetera, by an individual item. But the whole framework would be done by a program that the city promotes. So that's kind of what I hope for from the city. And I attended some PG&E classes on, it's called What Frugal. And it is, the question is, do you really need to upgrade your panel? Do you need a bigger set of amperage into your house to become completely electrified? And the answer is no. You can do it without upgrading your panel, but you have to be strategic. And this program that I hope for from the city would start with that idea of what frugal, that you don't really need to do more electricity into your house, but you can make some other changes that allow you to cook on electric, to heat electric, to get electric.
That sounds really interesting, Zeno. Could you put the link for that in the chat, that program you attended?
Yeah, the PG&E class.
Yeah, that would be
I
great.
can look.
Thank you.
So if you go to PG&E, they have classes and they have videos from all previous classes.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Zeno.
I can look for it, but maybe yeah, you could look for it yourself, or maybe the committee can promote this or put it in a newsletter or something like that. But What Frugal is the broad idea. There were two guys from What Frugal that gave presentation at this webinar, and I think it provides a framework on the technical side to do a home electrification, and then the city could contract with some business that has a guy come to your house and look around and tell what you need to do. Like where do you need to have the 220 voltage, right? That's kind of the thing.
Thank you, Zeno. I don't think we want to get too far down the electrical. I see several other hands raised, but we'll try to get that information on the city's website.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Zeno. Sandy, I think you had your hand up next.
You're muted.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to see the inclusion of the recognition that technology and digital consumption is contributing to climate change, and just a few examples of why. The Guardian in 2018 reported that the energy used in our digital consumption is set to have a bigger impact on global warming than the entire aviation industry, and that report from the Guardian was based on a Greenpeace report, and the Forbes in 2019 reported that the information technology sector is one of the largest consumers of global energy and contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. So I think it would be important to start recognizing that technology, especially wireless technology, is not the answer to climate change. That needs to be completely debunked. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Sandy. Christina?
I just wanted to add to what the gentleman was talking about earlier. Since we're looking at, I assume that you're looking at possibly, writing grants and that kind of thing to try to get some of the money from the Build Back Better that's coming down the pike. When I was young, when they were doing the war on poverty, what they did was they came through the neighborhood and they did an evaluation of everyone's house in the neighborhood, and of everything that needed to be fixed, from broken porches to, you know, bad windows or whatever. And then what they did is they wrote up an entire program of repairing the house, and then they gave loans that you could get a loan from the government. I think it was like 1% or something, 2% loan. You could pay back over like 10 years, and you could opt into this program. And so that's where I would like to see grant money come into to Sebastopol, is something like that, where the money gets paid back. So it's, you know, not a drain, but the money's up there up front, and perhaps getting a grant for something like that.
That's an interesting idea. Thank you for sharing. And Jerry, and then Tor.
Two things. One, on what Christina just said, in Anchorage, I think all of Alaska, but in Anchorage, I know they had a program similar to that, because my sister-in-law participated, and somebody came in, surveyed the house, and said, these are the things that need to be done. Here's what you can do. Here's what we can do. And then there was grant money that was available for the loan to make all those changes. And a lot of them were very simple. But the one thing was, when you were all talking about, oh, you can get money if you do this, you get money if you do that. This comes from Bayren, this comes from Sonoma Clean Power. Today, I just got a quote to replace my gas furnace and my existing duct work with upgraded stuff with higher efficiency. And as part of that presentation from the sales guy, I said, and here's the $3,000 that we can get from, I don't even know where it was. That's great when it comes from the salesman, but it seems to me that one of the things that we could do as a city is find all the places where all of the money is available for all the different programs, and have a site, something very simple, have a site where people can go and say, I'm doing this. Where could I get money back on that? I put in a heat pump years ago, and I found out 5 days after the 90-day window from PG&E that I could get money back for having put a heat pump into my house. And so they just told me, well, you're 3 days too late, because you have to know the right place to go.
Yeah, and I'm going to be sharing a couple of resources in just a minute that.
Yeah, but it'd be great to have, what I'm saying is, it'd be great to have a single resource that people could go to, where they would find the references to all the different places that you could go to.
Yeah, one of them is a pretty good one-stop shop. But Tor, to your comment.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to piggyback on what Christina said about evaluating all the homes in the community. And there are some new ways to do that, to identify where, you can get the biggest bang for your buck. And then I know of, for example, Sacramento SMUD has they're the utility there. They have a direct install program. So, if you qualify, they come and do an audit, install the systems. You don't have to go out shopping and hunting around for all these rebates. They've done all that. They've contracted with people to install it and negotiated good pricing and all that. So I would think that we should also look for those kind of programs, whether it's partnering with Sonoma Clean Power, PG&E, or is it ourselves? I don't know. But there are some new tools that can accelerate adoption of this stuff by making it easier for homeowners. That's all I want to say. So.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Tor. Dina, and then I think we're going to move into last couple of slides.
Okay. I just wanted to answer your question about our breakout rooms. We had a very quiet breakout room, but a lot of Post-its went up, and especially the last one of our vision of what Sebastopol could be, or what we wanted it to be, that has the most Post-its on it. And I remembered that to get somewhere, you have to know where you're going. So I think the visioning part was probably the most important question in a lot of ways. And I hope you get all the copies of the Post-its, Phoebe, because it's kind of like a bunch of surveys answered for you.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Dina. The group I was in did not make it to the visioning question. So I hope you can all go back. You should still have access to your Jamboard if you want to add something onto it later. Or you can also take the survey, which I'll share again in a minute. So thank you all for participating in the breakout rooms. I'm gonna share a couple slides to close us out.
And will you tell us when the next meeting is?
Yes, I will. That's right here on this slide. So thank you all for coming tonight and taking this first step to get involved. Hope you will share about this project with your friends and neighbors, anyone who might be interested. As I said, you can take the survey and also encourage your friends and neighbors to take the survey. I'm going to put that link in the chat again now. As well as if you're part of an organization or group that wants to learn more about the framework, you can contact us for a presentation. You can sign up to receive project updates. If you're not already getting the city newsletter updates, there's updates in there. There'll also be updates on the city's Facebook page. And then the sort of best way to stay up to date and share your feedback throughout this process is attending Climate Action Committee meetings. And they're held the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of each month at 3:30 p.m. on Zoom. And all of this information is also on the webpage for the framework, which I also put in the chat. So you can also keep checking back there for updates because we'll be updating that page regularly throughout the process. And then I want to leave you all with some personal actions. We've already been discussing some things you can do, and you're probably aware of many of these. But as we saw earlier, driving gas-powered vehicles is the biggest source of emissions in Sebastopol. So finding ways to drive less is an impactful way to reduce your emissions, whether that's biking or walking more or working from home if you're able to. And then we also talked about electric vehicles, and they have improved a lot since they were first came out, and there's now models that have hundreds of miles of range, and there's also some more affordable options available. And then within the home, your water and home heating systems are often the biggest user of natural gas. So heat pump technology runs on electricity, and it's a lot greener, it's a lot cleaner for your indoor air quality, there's less maintenance. And so that's an option to reduce your emissions from your household, as well as choosing electric for your stove and cooktop. And then, at least in my breakout room, we talked about Evergreen. This is Sonoma Clean Power's 100% renewable option. So Sonoma Clean Power's standard service is 93% carbon-free and 49% from renewable sources. So it's still better than PG&E, and Sebastopol receives Sonoma Clean Power energy. But the Evergreen program is all local energy from Sonoma and Marin County's geothermal and solar sources. So it's about $13 a month for the average user to upgrade to that. And you're almost basically eliminating your emissions from electricity, and you're also supporting more local renewable energy projects. And then also thinking about your waste, you may have heard about the new composting law that's going into effect. So wanting to keep food scraps and other green waste out of the trash because they really contribute to greenhouse gas emissions in the landfill. And these are some resources to help you make that transition and reduce your emissions. So I'll just highlight the top two, which is this calculator from UC Berkeley, which will help you calculate your household emissions like we saw on that earlier slide. And then it'll give you some suggestions based on your own emissions on actions you can take to reduce it. And then this site called Switches On is sort of a clearinghouse for all of the rebates and incentives that are available to help you electrify your home. So if you go to their incentive tab and type in your zip code, it'll tell you all the programs that are available from Sonoma Clean Power, from the Bay Area Regional Energy Network, some from PG&E, and that's where you can find out about all the resources that are available to help you electrify your house. And this is in no means like an exhaustive list, but just to point you to a couple good resources and actions you can take. So thank you all so much for coming tonight. Really appreciate your input and engagement on this topic. And we hope you'll stay involved, whether it's taking the survey or signing up for email updates. I'll stick around. We got a couple minutes left if anyone has any more questions. Otherwise, thank you so much again. And you can also email us. I'll put the email in the chat in a second if you have any further comments or questions.
Phoebe, you're saying that for us to continue to be involved, we should check in on the second and fourth Wednesdays. Is that the time and place?
Yeah, that is the Climate Action Committee meetings, the second and fourth Wednesdays at 3:30 on Zoom.
What's the website for that, or where do we go for that?
If you go onto the City of Sebastopol's website, up in the top left corner, it says committees, I believe city government. You click on that, and then the various committees are showing, and the Climate Action Committee, you click on that, and then it goes down to meetings. And the Zoom link will be right there, as well as the recordings of past meetings.
Great.
Yeah, and Carrie just put that link in the chat as well.
Great, perfect.
Helen, did you have a
so
question?
just to note, the meeting links are going to be down at the bottom of the page under upcoming and past meetings. Just it's after a little bit of the other information, like the committee members and contact.
Where will the survey be after this meeting is over?
The survey, I put the link in the chat. So
I mean, for our friends.
So you can send them that link. It's also on the framework webpage, which I also put the link for that in the chat. So either of those, good to share. Helen?
Yes. What is the city doing to reach out to rental property owners and lower income residents of the city to offer these incentives?
Yeah, good question. I am working with Tim Miller from the West County Community Services to reach out to the low-income community, and particularly the Park Village site. Also in touch with other community-based organizations working to reach out to that community. And
well, there's many apartment complexes in the city, and the city knows who owns these properties. Are they doing anything to outreach to the property owners of multi-unit rental complexes?
That's a good question. Carrie or Sarah, did you have a response to that, Councilmember Gurney?
Thank you, Phoebe. The city, through Bayren, we have reached out to Burbank Heights and Orchards, which has 239 units. There's interest there in getting more modern water conserving features. We've reached out to several multi-unit places like Colonial Manor, also all water customers. For instance, if you're the owner of an apartment complex, all water customers have received all of the promotional material. That's kind of challenging because if the owner is paying the bill, then the tenants in that multi-complex aren't knowing necessarily what's going on. So we're going through the water customer, enrollment list to give information about Bayren, for instance, that's water conservation.
Thanks.
And then additionally, for new construction, as the planning department, we look at all new construction. We do have a pretty high level of energy efficient requirements in the modern building code, and we also have a water efficient landscape ordinance. So if you have a site of a specific size or larger, so for instance, the long under construction Healdsburg Murphy site is subject to making sure that they have a water budget and they're doing water efficient landscaping. That also applies to commercial buildings and new structures like the Exchange Bank and the hotel and those types of things.
Great, thank you. Key?
Yeah, so for the new construction, is it required that each unit have its own separate water meter?
So usually multifamily is, sorry, I make sure I heard the question. Usually multifamily residential will have a single water meter.
Right, so how do the individuals who are using the water know how much water they're using and have any incentive at all to reduce their water usage? Especially under new construction, it seems like it should be a requirement that every single residential unit should have its own separate water meter so that they can be billed and know what their usage is. Seems like because there's no incentive.
Understandable. New construction usually isn't the biggest problem. And because the state of California, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, started to require a lot of efficiency in appliances. So faucets, shower heads, sinks, all of those infrastructure components actually are much lower water use than, say, 10 years, anything that was installed 10 years ago. And in fact, there have been a lot of rebates through time to install low flow toilets and those types of things. But new construction is usually requiring that. From the city infrastructure side, the city needs to maintain all of those, boxes you see in the street are water connections for customers. And so there's a water usage side, but then there's the how much material and are you being efficient with material to have 1 meter versus, say 20 different meters that both city staff has to read, maintain, and the materials to install those. Those are part of the sunk costs in terms of, building efficiently that we need to look at as a community on the other side of things.
So by that same logic, it sounds like we should just have 1 electricity meter and 1 gas meter for a multi-unit building, because it would be, using the same logic for gas and electric, for some reason, it's individually metered, but for water, we got enough of it. It's good enough. So I'm just pointing out that that's very inconsistent.
Sure, and there are also developments where the electric, especially if it's all electric. I know the city ventures had previously proposed a development on the north side of town. They were actually going to do a net zero, but they actually needed to share the electric on top to be able to do a photovoltaic array. I don't know how they were planning on metering that. I would have to look into that, but that is part of the efficiency of, you can imagine having that many different inverters or systems for photovoltaic versus having a more unified system and whatnot. So there's a balance to all of it, I guess.
I have a particular frustration, which is the water usage as you're waiting to get hot water. It's such a waste of water that happens multiple times a day. And I'm wondering if there's any program that would retrofit under the sink, something like that, with a instant hot water heater.
Let me just point out, this is actually inexpensive to do. It costs $300. You can get it at Home Depot. And you're right, a program to do that would be great. I've done it for years. A pump that just pumps the water from the hot water pipe into the cold water pipe, and you have the hot water there, and you don't waste any water at all. And it's fairly trivial to do.
Yes.
But a program to do it would be great.
Mm-hmm.
If I could just jump in really quick, Phoebe, I know that we're running out of time, but the Water Upgrade Safe program is evaluating adding a recirculating pump to the menu of offerings. So they're definitely looking into that and hope to be able to provide that in the future as one of the options.
Yeah, one brand is called a chili pepper. We have.
It used to be Metlin, and they sold the license and they became Chili Pepper with the upgraded unit.
All right, so we're a little bit over time here. Lisa, Tor, Jerry, do you want to share your last comments real quick?
Yeah, if I could. I guess I'm just wondering what's next with this process that you've started with the framework. We gave a lot of input via Post-its, which is sort of bullet points. And are you planning on reaching out to other additional community members to gather in additional similar information? And then what comes next, as far as I wasn't quite clear on what this group or the community, larger community, dials in as you proceed with this framework process.
Yeah, so I will be looking at all the input that we got tonight that you put on the Jamboards, but then also talking to the facilitators about the conversations you had. The survey is open now. It'll be open for probably at least another month to get input that way. And we'll be continuing to do tabling at the farmers market and some other locations to reach folks who weren't able to attend tonight. And then all of that input will go into the next phase of the project, which is the researching and writing of it. And as I said, the Climate Action Committee meetings are really the best way to stay up to date with that. They'll be, well, there have been, and there will continue to be regular updates at those meetings about progress on the framework. And then can't say for sure what community events will be held, but I'm hoping to have a couple workshops and more ways for people to give input later on in the process about when we're starting to consider specific actions, and definitely when we have a draft of the framework ready for review.
So I guess the best, if I was to advise others, it would be to take the survey if they haven't already at this point.
Yeah, that's correct. Lisa, do you have a last point?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for their ideas. And Key, I appreciate your idea about the water metering, and there were a lot of good ideas that came out. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you all so much for coming and sharing your ideas and input. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Phoebe.
Thank you, Phoebe.
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful.
We're glad you're here.